Good morning, I'm Maiki Oreta and you're watching Business 360, where we break down the numbers, connect the dots, and give you the developments and the insights you need to navigate, adapt, and lead. Let's dive right in. Government infrastructure spending surges nearly 20% in the first 2 months of the year, driven by carryover projects and public works. The World Bank sees the Philippines reaching upper middle income status by 2027, missing the government's target by just 1 year. The International Monetary Fund calls on the Philippines to boost tax collection efficiency to support long-term growth. And Malacañang puts new media accreditation rules on hold following press freedom concerns from journalists. Let's take a look at how global markets wrapped up overnight. U.S. stocks ended mixed Monday, with the S&P 500 flat after a choppy session as mega-cap tech stocks weighed on the broader market. Investors are staying on the sidelines ahead of major catalysts, including key economic data and earnings from some of America's biggest companies.
So we have seen, people going out and buying cars. They probably have been going out and buying iPhones as well. But I think actually we're going to have to place a little bit more importance on the earnings of some non-Magnificent Seven companies like the auto companies, because that's really, I think, going to tell us where the economy is likely to be headed. Apple, will probably have decent earnings no matter what.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 0.3%. The S&P 500 higher by 0.1%, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq lost 0.1%. Over in Europe, markets closed higher. The UK's FTSE 100 higher by flat with an upward bias. Germany's DAX higher by 0.1%, and France's CAC 40 higher by 0.5%. Here at home, government infrastructure spending continues to gain momentum, rising to 182.9 billion pesos in the first 2 months of the year, supporting economic growth ahead of the midterm elections. Latest data from the Department of Budget and Management, or DBM, shows spending was nearly 20% higher compared to the 153.4 billion pesos recorded in the same period last year. Year-on-year, infrastructure and capital outlays also expanded by over 23% to 148.3 billion pesos from 120.5 billion pesos as the government steps up public works and investments in critical projects. The increase was driven by the Department of Public Works and Highways, fueled by the completion of carryover projects, payments for emergency and disaster-related civil works, and the settlement of right-of-way claims. Strong infrastructure spending remains a key pillar for boosting domestic demand and for driving job creation ahead of the midterm polls. The Philippines is now expected to reach upper middle income status by 2027, 1 year later than the government's original target. That's according to the World Bank. World Bank lead economist Gonzalo Varela says the country could still achieve upper middle income status by 2026, but only if it delivers outstanding growth performance. To sustain that status, he stresses that the Philippines needs to push through key reforms and address long-standing challenges holding back higher income gains. At the same time, the World Bank slashed its growth forecasts for the Philippines, now expecting GDP to expand by 5.3% this year and by 5.4% next year, well below the government's 6 to 8% target range for those periods. Now, achieving upper middle income status is a critical milestone for the Philippines, signifying stronger economic capacity, better global access, and a pathway toward higher standards of living for millions of Filipinos. The Marcos administration is looking to strike a favorable deal with the United States amid tariff pressures. Trade Secretary Cristina Roque and Special Assistant to the President for Investment and Economic Affairs, Frederick Go, are headed to Washington today to negotiate for lower tariffs under U.S. President Donald Trump's new 17% reciprocal duty on Philippine exports. The Philippines warns that the measure could put economic growth, jobs, and wages at risk. Trade Secretary Cristina Roque says that the delegation's goal is to bring down the U.S. tariff rate on Philippine goods, preferably back to zero. In exchange, the Philippines is offering expanded market access for key U.S. exports, including automobiles, dairy products, frozen meat, and soybeans. The Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI, is expanding its monitoring of substandard steel bars to cover e-commerce platforms as the government moves to strengthen infrastructure, safety, and protect consumers amid the country's construction boom. Trade Secretary Cristina Roque says that the new measures aim to safeguard local industries, builders, and the public amid growing online sales of construction materials. However, she clarifies that no final decision has been made yet on banning steel bars produced by facilities using induction furnaces, a practice long criticized for quality issues. Roque stresses that ensuring steel quality is crucial for public safety, especially as the Philippines accelerates its infrastructure build-out under the administration's economic agenda. We're taking a quick break. Please stay with us as we dive deep into the numbers and the narratives that matter most to your bottom line. Welcome back. Let's check in now on how Asian markets are moving this morning. Right now, the Nikkei 225 is in the green, up by 0.4%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index in the green as well, a little higher, up by 0.6%. Shanghai's Composite is flat with an upward bias, and Singapore's Straits Times Index is higher by 0.3%. Here at home, it was a sluggish start to the trading week yesterday. Shanghai's Composite is flat with an upward bias, and Singapore's Straits Times Index is higher by 0.3%. Here at home, it was a sluggish start to the trading week yesterday as the Philippine Stock Exchange Index slipped 0.3% to close at 6250. This as investors took profits following last Friday's rally, with sentiment remaining cautious ahead of end-of-the-month window dressing. Now, despite the downturn, optimism persists over strong corporate earnings and easing global trade tensions, which could support gains later on this week. Now, right now, as of 10:14 this morning, the main gauge is in the red, down by 0.4% to 62.23. The broader all shares index in the red, not down by as much, just lower by 0.1%. Now, the gains in the financials, industrial, and mining and oil counters are being offset by sharp losses in the holding firm's property and services counters. They're down by about 1% in early trade. Now, total volume is at 54 million, valued at 687 million pesos. We've got 59 advancers, 52 decliners, while 47 stocks are unchanged. Now, in the currency market, the peso opened stronger at 56.33 against the greenback from its previous close of 56.42. Now, after delivering record profits last year, Meralco charges ahead in 2025, setting its sights on fresh double-digit income growth, even amid global uncertainty. Sujin Kim has the details.
Amid persistent headwinds in global trade and energy, Meralco Chairman Manuel V. Pangilinan said the company targets low double-digit growth this year.
I think it's going to be a tough year overall for the economy. I think a number of supranational organizations like ADB and the World Bank have reduced the GDP forecast. So it's sort of a indicator that it's going to be a tough year. Our target is to be able to produce double-digit growth in our core income.
In the first 3 months of 2025, Meralco recorded 11.2 billion pesos in core net income, an 11% increase compared to the same period last year, with 31% of profits driven by its power generation business.
Our first quarter results reflect a strong start in 2025, with solid financial performance across the business portfolios.
Meralco is now targeting to deliver 56,000 gigawatt hours of energy sales for the year, backed by its new solar projects, LNG facilities, and an expanding customer base.
I think our forecast is a slight uptick, better than first quarter growth now of 1.5%. So I think we're looking at between 3 to 4% is our forecast.
Despite the expected onset of the rainy season, Meralco executives maintain there will be no delays in their ongoing projects.
We don't foresee any major concerns or delays that will have on the project coming from typhoons. The panels are designed to withstand 230 kph winds, no, as required also by insurance.
And this year, Meralco expects liquefied natural gas or LNG to overtake coal as its primary source of baseload power, a pivotal move toward a cleaner, more resilient energy future. Sujin Kim, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
The business of power is evolving faster than ever, with demand rising, climate risks escalating, and competition heating up. Meralco, the country's largest distributor, reports an 11% jump in core net income for the first quarter of 2025, boosted by stronger contributions from both power distribution and generation. With renewable projects in the pipeline and record stock price levels, how is Meralco positioning itself for the next chapter of growth? Joining us now is Ronnie Aperocho, Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of Meralco. Hi, Ronnie. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Hi, Maiki. Good morning.
Ronnie, let's start with the fresh figures. Up 11% in the first quarter of 2025. How do you plan on sustaining this momentum through this year and next? We just got word that the World Bank has reduced the growth target for this year. Its forecast for the year to 5.3%. How is that going to play out for you guys?
Well, thank you, Maiki. Actually, we're seeing positive contributions from, of course, from the election time here in the Philippines, and usually when there's election, see an uptick in terms of sales. And for the first quarter of this year, we expect a higher temperature, so we expect significant growth, especially in the residential sector, which is basically sensitive to the temperature, increase in temperature. And, we are seeing very good contributions also from hyperscalers. So, last quarter of last year, we energized the biggest data center in the Philippines, which is the Vitro data center in Santa Rosa. And early this year, we have also energized another data center owned by STT, by Globe Telemedia. And we are seeing very good contribution from this segment. Mm-hmm. And commercial sales, by the way, also grew by 1%. Not that much, but basically there are so-called sustained demand from consumer-facing businesses, and even as the real estate faced some sort of a headwind. But looking forward, we expect a stronger momentum second quarter, and the second half, the seasonal consumption and election-related, as I said earlier, are expected to pick up.
Yeah, the heat and the elections are going to give you guys a boost. That said, what's your forecast for 2025 in terms of net income?
Well, our chairman said yesterday that we're still looking at the double-digit increase in net income. Well, the exact figure might be too early to provide guidance, but that's the target of attaining a double-digit income for this year.
Okay. Another interesting trend is the adoption of electric vehicles. How do you see this playing out with the evolving energy demand and the mix, the push for EVs? How do you see that affecting things moving forward for Meralco?
We're quite positive that in due time there will be a ramp up in terms of EV vehicle adoption in the Philippines, though I would say that the incentive is not that much for the prospective EV users, but as reported to us, there have been significant requests already for charging stations from Meralco to install in strategic locations, and for us that's a very good signal that EV will definitely be a game changer for Meralco, and we're ready to provide that much needed infrastructure for us to provide some level of convenience to the EV users, that wherever they go in our franchise, there's always this charging station of Meralco to somehow give them the power or the energy that they need to run their electric vehicles.
Correct. Yeah, EV adoption is steadily picking up, and people are projecting brands like BYD to possibly even outpace brands like Toyota in the coming years as people pick up on this EV wave. We've got the demand for it, but we've got limited infrastructure for it by way of charging facilities. What do we need from the government in order to incentivize people to create the infrastructure for this?
We're looking for subsidy, but for now, I think, on our part, it's really more on providing the charging stations. And we're looking at building around 7,500 charging stations in 2028. So, of course, there's always this mandate for the government in terms of electric vehicle adoption, also to some government establishments also. So that's really the mandate for us to put more charging infrastructures.
Mm-hmm. On the supply side, Ronnie, Meralco is in favor of the push for nuclear energy. What can you tell us about, are we ready for this? And what are the hurdles keeping us from really getting into nuclear energy?
I think the government is ready for this. In fact, legislation is already underway. We're just awaiting for the passage of the Philatom bill that is now in the Senate. So, by the way, it has been passed already at the Congress. So we're now waiting for the passage of this, I would say, priority bill from the Senate. But while waiting for the passage of this bill, Meralco is already doing a lot of initiatives to really promote the adoption of nuclear energy in the Philippines. In fact, during the Giga Summit last week, we already launched our NEST program. NEST stands for Nuclear Energy Strategic Transition, which basically aims to support the government to develop 1,200 megawatts of nuclear power by 2030. Actually, this capacity is actually integrated already in the Philippine Energy Plan released by the Department of Energy, that having 1,200 megawatts of nuclear power in our total supply mix by 2030.
Mm-hmm. Looking at the figures, Ronnie,
I think I have to correct that, not 2030, but 2032.
Okay, 8 million customers, 39 cities, 72 municipalities. How is Meralco modernizing its network to meet the growing demands?
Well, we always provide the much-needed capacity. When additional capacity is needed in any locality, we would be very proactive in building the substation facility that will somehow provide the capacity. But not only the capacity, we're also very proactive in terms of providing a very reliable service all throughout our franchise area, especially that we have the franchise has been renewed for another 25 years. This will really somehow accelerate our growth strategy, that really modernizing our infrastructure.
Yeah.
Modernizing means not only about replacing the aging facilities, but putting in the automation, the digitalization of our power grid that will somehow provide a 24/7 reliable service, that of keeping the lights on for our 8 million customers.
That's right. Your franchise was renewed for another 25 years. New franchise, new chapter for Meralco. What are your key priorities as you embark on this new leg?
Well, our priorities, I would say, are anchored on 4 pillars. The first one, which I mentioned earlier, about grid modernization, which also includes, by the way, storm hardening. The next pillar is about elevating customer experience. So this is about leveraging digital technologies to improve customer service, that of streamlining our billing systems, enhancing our online platforms, and of course, providing efficient 24/7 customer support. And the third pillar is about advancing innovation technology. Of course, we have these emerging technologies like energy storage solutions and electric vehicles, as I discussed earlier. And of course, the distributed energy resource management, or EAR, and of course, smart home integration. And the last but not the least is about accelerating the clean energy transition. This is about complementing our energy sourcing portfolio of renewable energy like solar and wind. And on top of this, as I mentioned earlier, it's about the nuclear energy adoption in our country, which I think it's very timely because we need a very reliable and I will say a very cost-efficient source of baseload power in the country. That's why it's really about nuclear energy.
Okay, nuclear energy is interesting, but it's going to take a while before things are going to get expensive before they start to get cheap, because we're going to need to put so much investment into nuclear power. What are your thoughts on this? What's holding the Philippines back from really coming into this in a big way?
Well, there's this public acceptance issue in terms of nuclear energy adoption. I think that's part of our advocacy to somehow educate our people that nuclear technology has already improved significantly. As we can see from the other countries, like France, for example, 75% of their energy supply is coming from nuclear power. And other countries in the Europe are adopting nuclear energy also. And, we have this new generation of nuclear power plants that could somehow assure us as a very safe, I would say, energy production using nuclear energy. And here in Meralco, that's really part of our advocacy to help in educating our consumers and helping address that fear about nuclear energy.
Safety is one issue, then there's cost. If we adopt nuclear power, how much cheaper might that make power in the country?
Well, we need economies of scale for us to achieve, I would say, that level where it can be comparable to a conventional coal-fired power plant. And we need maybe at least 2,500 megawatts of coal, or maybe even higher. But basically what we're looking is for a nuclear power to be competitive against coal. But basically coal is of course, not clean. So it's basically emits carbon. It's basically the reason why we have this energy transition, because we want to do away with carbon producing power plants. But nuclear is really a clean source of energy, no carbon emissions in the atmosphere. So that's why globally, to address this energy transition, really a viable option is nuclear energy.
Okay.
Of course, on top of renewables.
Okay, on another front, Ronnie, you filed for a new rate reset this year with ERC. So the ERC, they take a look every now and then to see where your rates are, and you filed for that rate reset. What would this mean? What are you asking for, and what would it mean for the Philippines?
Well, the reset process is essential to, of course, align our distribution rates with operational realities and regulatory efficiency. With the new rate reset, Meralco reaffirms its commitment, of course, to continually provide our customers with, I would say, the best value energy solutions, reliably, affordably, superbly, and sustainably through our pipeline project that will also support government initiatives. So it's a process where we submit the CAPEX and OPEX program of Meralco, but collateral to this, of course, are the service delivery commitments or expectations that, of course, once we have this investment as approved by ERC, we can somehow provide this level of service to our customers in terms of reliability, in terms of efficiency, in terms of quality, and many other benefits to the customers.
Okay, with a rate reset.
Part of this, by the way, Maiki, is our advanced metering infrastructure, or AMI, or shall I say a smart metering program.
You know, with the rate reset, prices are going to go up, and but with that, service level expectations are going to increase as well. How crucial is this rate? Where are you in this process, and how crucial is it for you to maintain high levels of service?
Well, we have already filed our application to the ERC, and we're just awaiting for the decision on how to proceed. But there have been initial hearings already on our application, and the target is for them to act on this before June 1 of this year. There might be some delays, but hopefully it will never be delayed significantly. This is very important because this will somehow give the green light for Meralco to proceed with our CapEx programs, which are basically essential for us to start, I would say, acquiring the equipment. And at the same time, basically, this will also provide us with, as I said, a green light for us to somehow launch our programs, which some of them will take years before they will be completed. Like building a substation would usually take at least a year, for example. So, and of course for AMI or for smart metering program, so it's a long process because we have to undergo, I would say, a competitive selection process. Or there's a bidding process for the best solution that we can avail for us to pursue this advanced metering infrastructure.
Okay, thank you for your time this morning, Ronnie Aparocho, EVP and Chief Operating Officer of Meralco. Electricity is the fuel of economic growth, so all the best to you at Meralco. Now we're taking a quick break. Business 360 will be right back. The National Security Council says there is no truth whatsoever to claims by the Chinese Coast Guard, or CCG, that it has seized Sandy Cay, a sandbank near Pag-asa Island in the West Philippine Sea. The Philippine Coast Guard is also pushing back against misinformation from Chinese media, which reported that the CCG landed on Sandy Cay to exercise sovereignty. The National Task Force for the West Philippine Sea immediately launched an investigation on Pag-asa Island to verify if any monitoring equipment was installed by Chinese forces.
There is no truth whatsoever to the claim of the Chinese Coast Guard that the Pag-asa case has been seized. No? The facts on the ground do not support this statement coming from the Philippine Chinese Coast Guard. Therefore, we urge the People's Republic of China and the Chinese Coast Guard to act with restraint and not increase tensions in the West Philippine Sea.
To reinforce its claims, the Philippines is reasserting sovereignty by raising the national flag on Sandy Cay after photos emerged of Chinese personnel unfurling their flag on the disputed sandbank. The Aboitiz Group is unveiling new strategies to stay resilient amid global headwinds and to accelerate growth across key sectors in the Philippines. Sujin Kim has the details.
In the face of fresh global economic challenges, the Aboitiz Group unveiled bold strategies to further strengthen its operations in the Philippines. In a media briefing, Toto Hilado, CFO of Aboitiz Equity Ventures, assured that despite the uncertainty brought by the Trump 2.0 tariffs, the group remains calm and focused.
Because AEV is primarily focused in the local markets, we don't think that there will be any direct effect on our business. But of course, since everything is globally related, if the tension escalates, there could be indirect effects. So we continue to monitor these developments to assess the potential risk. But so far, nothing yet that should alarm us.
Meanwhile, Danelle Aboitiz, CEO of Aboitiz Power, highlighted their aggressive push toward the country's clean energy transition.
AP is continuously seeking opportunities to expand its renewable energy capacity. And with these efforts, we've allocated 78 billion pesos of capital expenditure in 2025, two-thirds of which are earmarked for renewable energy projects, reinforcing our goal of growing our low carbon intensity energy capacity to 4,600 megawatts.
On digital transformation, Union Bank President Ana Aboitiz Delgado stressed the critical role of artificial intelligence in scaling customer growth.
That we've increased the number of credit cards that we've approved. And this is really because AI has powered our customer onboarding platform.
In infrastructure, the group reported plans to expand its industrial estates, including the ongoing expansion of Lima Estate and the official turnover of Laguindingan Airport as part of its long-term strategy to strengthen supply chains and drive regional growth across the Philippines. Sujin Kim, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
The International Monetary Fund, or the IMF, says that the Philippines has room to strengthen its tax system by making collections more efficient. An IMF spokesperson pointed to the need for reforms in excise taxes, enhancing value-added tax collections, and improving overall tax administration. The IMF also stressed that tax incentives should be better targeted and tightly managed. Finance Secretary Ralph Recto earlier said that he is not pushing for new taxes. Instead, his focus is on boosting collection efficiency and expanding non-tax revenues. Now, the Presidential Communications Office, or PCO, is putting on hold new accreditation guidelines for Malacañang's beat reporters and crews. The move comes after journalists raised concerns about possible discrimination and press freedom violations. Among the proposed rules, reporters would need at least 5 years of experience in the political beat, and media outlets would need to be in business for at least 5 years. The Malacañang Press Corp is also seeking clarity on the guidelines around false reporting, which could be used as grounds to revoke a news organization's accreditation. The National Union of Journalists of the Philippines, or NUJP, added that the provision on fake news is too vague and could be subject to abuse.
It does contradict in a way yung mga naging announcement or naging statements ni President Marcos, no, na he's okay, for example, with critical press. Tsaka delikado rin talaga na parang they will be spewing content, no, itong reporters who are seeking ayun, parang that might be an overreach already.
San Miguel Corporation, or SMC, opens another urgent care center in Manila, offering free medical consultation and services as part of its push to expand healthcare access. The second Bagong Urgent Care and Ambulatory Services, or Bukas facility, is located at SMC's Better World Smoky Mountain site, developed in partnership with the Department of Health and Tondo Medical Center. This follows the opening of the first Bukas Center in Cubao, Quezon City. In a statement, SMC Chairman and CEO Ramon Ang says that the initiative aims to strengthen communities and help patients recover faster. SMC is also looking to convert some of its community clinics in the provinces into Bukas facilities, provided partnerships with local hospitals are in place. The Department of Tourism and Emirates Airlines team up to promote the Philippines as a premier destination for Middle Eastern and European travelers. Tourism Secretary Cristina Garcia Frasco signed a memorandum of understanding with Emirates to develop new promotional strategies targeting the Middle East, the Mediterranean, and European markets. The MOU also aims to expand flight routes and increase seat capacity to key Philippine destinations, making travel easier for both tourists and Filipinos based in the Middle East and in Europe. To maximize reach, both sides will also promote each other's campaigns across various media platforms. As global tariffs disrupt the auto industry, new opportunities are opening up for the Philippine market. Our mobility correspondent, G. Baroga, tells us more.
While the Philippines may not be exporting finished cars in huge numbers, it plays a vital role in the global automotive supply chain, providing key components to manufacturers in the U.S. But with President Donald Trump's new tariffs on auto imports and parts, the effects are already being felt in the country. On Bilyonaryo News Channel's Business 360, auto industry expert Vince Socco says that while the tariffs were expected, the rapid escalation took many by surprise. The US imports about half of the vehicles it sells, and many of those cars depend on parts from places like the Philippines. But Socco explains that with tariffs being imposed on individual parts such as sensors, wiring harnesses, and meter assemblies, things are getting a little more complicated.
It's one thing to be able to impose tariffs on completely built-up vehicles. You can count them as single units and impose a tariff on each one of them. But when you look deeper, each car, each internal combustion engine car is comprised of about 30,000 component parts. Even EVs are about 15,000 component parts. And each of those are a line item which is subject to specific tariffs.
Despite these challenges, Socco sees some bright spots for the Philippine auto industry. He says the Philippines has an edge with a 17% tariff rate compared to higher rates in neighboring ASEAN countries, which could give local manufacturers an opportunity to increase exports if US production ramps up. While some car makers may consider moving production to the US, Socco points out that this won't happen overnight. For now, the global car market will continue to rely on parts from around the world, including the Philippines. Though the tariffs have caused some uncertainty, Socco remains optimistic about the future of the Philippine auto industry.
We're starting to build economies of scale. The production quality is here. We have the labor, that's important. And so we have a chance to really break in with this potential realignment that's going to happen.
The local car sector is set to grow even more in 2025, with a projected increase in sales expected to break the 500,000 unit mark. Due to the labor force and growing demand capabilities, the Philippines has a significant opportunity to have a large share in the global auto supply chain. There are challenges due to tariffs, but this has also opened up opportunities for the local car scene. For BNC Mobility, G. Baroga.
We're taking a short break. Business 360 will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching Business 360. Now, business operations in Spain and Portugal face major disruptions after a massive power outage brought parts of both countries to a standstill on Monday. The blackout grounded flights, halted public transport, and forced some hospitals to temporarily suspend services. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said electricity supply was restored to about half of the country by the grid operator. Businesses, airports, and manufacturing plants were among the worst affected. Spain's Interior Ministry declared a national emergency, while emergency cabinet meetings were held in both Spain and Portugal as authorities investigate the cause of the widespread outage. Infrastructure resilience, a key priority for business and economic stability in Europe, is once again under the spotlight. Elsewhere in Europe, the Vatican sets the conclave to elect the next pope on May 7th, delaying the voting by 2 days to give cardinals more time for strategic discussions. A Vatican expert says that the decision reflects the need for cardinals, many of whom were appointed by Pope Francis, to familiarize themselves with one another, given that global church leadership now draws from a broader range of countries.
That's quite significant because they are acknowledging that they need more time. They also have decided on what to do about whether Cardinal Becciu will be in the conclave or not, but the details of that have not been released yet.
The Vatican initially indicated that the conclave could have begun as early as May 6th. Starting a day later gives cardinals more time to hold informal talks ahead of that crucial vote. The selection of a new pope could have far-reaching implications, impacting global humanitarian policies, Catholic-run social services and international diplomatic relationships, especially in regions where church-backed institutions are key players in education, healthcare, and community development. Russian President Vladimir Putin offers a 3-day ceasefire with Ukraine starting midnight on May 8th, coinciding with the 80th anniversary of Russia's Victory Day on May 9th. The Kremlin says that the ceasefire is a goodwill gesture, but warns that Russian troops will deliver an adequate and effective response if Ukraine violates it. Russia also claims it is ready for peace talks without preconditions to address what it calls the root causes of the Ukraine crisis. However, Ukraine's foreign minister dismisses the offer, saying if Moscow truly wanted peace, it should agree to a full ceasefire immediately. The prospects of a ceasefire, even temporary, are being watched closely by global markets, given their impact on energy prices, supply chains, and investor sentiment in Europe and beyond. Now, Amazon launches 27 satellites into space as it kicks off Project Kuiper, a $10 billion initiative aimed at providing broadband internet to customers worldwide, particularly in rural and underserved areas. A rocket carrying these satellites blasted off from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida on Monday. These are the first of over 3,000 satellites Amazon plans to deploy into low Earth orbit, creating a global internet constellation. Amazon's Internet from Space project, led by billionaire Jeff Bezos, is expected to compete directly with Elon Musk's Starlink and traditional telecom giants like AT&T and T-Mobile. The move opens up a new front in the global race for satellite-based connectivity, with major implications for infrastructure, tech, investment, and digital access worldwide. Now, before we go, British celebrity chef Gordon Ramsay expands his food empire here in the Philippines with 2 new restaurants set to open soon. Gordon Ramsay Fish and Chips and Street Burger by Gordon Ramsay will soon rise at Megaworld's Mactan Newtown development in Lapu-Lapu City, Cebu. Signature dishes to watch out for include gourmet burgers, lobster and shrimp dishes, and milkshakes. The Michelin-starred chef first entered the Philippine market with Gordon Ramsay Bar and Grill at Newport World Resorts in Pasay City. During his visit to the country last January, Ramsay confirmed plans to open more restaurants, including the world-famous Hell's Kitchen brand. The expansion underscores strong growth opportunities in the Philippines' hospitality and dining sector. And that's it for Business 360. I'm Maiki Oreta. Thank you for joining us, and keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.